Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion, and that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on, it's gonna be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, December 4th, 2021, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm host the most Will Buchanan on How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we get started, we do let everyone know this is a family-friendly podcast, at least we try to be. Sometimes words will fly, and also there are things that may be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, there is no way to explain this as we're getting closer to the holidays. We're getting closer to that wonderful day of December and New Year's and trying to relive the year that was 2021 that we thought was better than 2020. So here's hoping that 2022 is going to be much better. But anyway, that also being said, this by far the next story we're about to talk about is a crazy story. And I say crazy because the only way I can say this is that cops decided to shoot a guy in a wheelchair for shoplifting a toolbox. You can't make this up.
Not going to the store, sir. He's 84. I have a male suspect that just shoplifted right in front of me. He pulled a knife on me. He's currently westbound in the parking lot. He's confronted by loss prevention. He pulled the knife on loss prevention while I was right there. Got his knife in his other hand. He's not going to the store, sir.
Stop now! You need to stop.
Bravo 1-8, shots fired.
Bravo 15. We have one gunshot victim. Officers are code 4.
Officer Remington wanted Mr. Richards to stop and to surrender his knife. Mr. Richards refused to comply and instead continued to head through the Walmart and Lowe's parking lots. Now, according to the Walmart employee, Mr. Richards said, "If you want me to put down the knife, you're going to have to shoot me." I am deeply disturbed and troubled by Officer Remington's actions. His use of deadly force in this incident is a clear violation of department policy and directly contradicts multiple aspects of our use of force and training. As a result, the department moved earlier today to terminate Officer Remington.
Okay, so you guys have seen this, and I always thought this was kind of crazy for a second. Guy in a wheelchair allegedly steals a toolbox, has a knife. Officers tell the man to stop. He said, and of course, allegedly, they say, well, if you want to get the knife away from me, you have to kill me. So they shoot him 9 times. And again, the reason why I point this out is because a lot of people are going to be sitting there saying, well, the guy in the wheelchair was armed and he could have been lunging out at the officers. Okay, so here's the problem I have with that. Number one, the guy's in a wheelchair. Mobility is limited at best. And plus, he's at arm's length. And again, I keep saying this to law enforcement, you guys have other things, non-lethal tactics to use aside from your gun. Mace, taser, wait for backup and actually corner the guy. There's many other ways this could have been handled, but again, I see why they decided to move swiftly, because no matter how you look at it, you can't justify shooting a guy in a wheelchair 9 times. And of course, the attorney for the officer is doing his job. Well, if you cut and paste the video, it doesn't show the officer's mindset. The mindset is basically that you shot a guy in a wheelchair who didn't have a gun. Now, that's the thing I keep saying. Now, if he had a gun, okay, completely different scenario. But he had a knife. At the same time, supposedly had a toolbox. I'm like, so nobody thought about one officer getting in front of him, one officer getting behind him, both taking out the mace and saying, hey, you don't stop, we're going to mace you. If you don't stop, we're going to mace you. We told you, and then spray him. I don't know, I don't care who you are, wheelchair or not, mace will stop you in your tracks, especially when that stuff gets in your eyes and your nose and your throat. That stuff freaking burns. But again, it makes no sense that the officers did not choose to use this. So of course, like I said before, I'm surprised they fired him this quickly. And I'm also surprised that, again, the attorney for the guy is doing his job, because we've seen that before. The Ahmaud Arbery's case, where the attorneys tried to discredit Ahmaud Arbery and everything else in the sun in front of everybody. So this attorney is only doing what he's been hired to do. Although I find it very difficult that this officer will be reinstated, because again, 9 shots into a wheelchair-bound individual does not scream policing. That just screams that you just feel like you can shoot him and think that justified shooting is going to get you out of it. It won't. So, not surprised by the fact of how quickly they moved on this, but I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes a thing, especially that we haven't heard anything from the Fraternal Order Police or police unions about this guy, but we'll see. Another crazy story, which again just seems to be evolving like Tiger King. Guys, do remember that earlier this week we did have a school shooting in Michigan, where a demented young white man, white terrorist, I should call him what he is, went to his school with a semi-automatic handgun and, wounded many others, killed 3 people. Well, we kept saying the entire time, because the gun was never secured in the home and that the parents should be charged. The parents have now just been charged and even tried to run for a little while.
Tonight, the parents of accused school shooter Ethan Crumbley are about to turn themselves in, according to their attorney, after being charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter in connection with Tuesday's deadly attack at a Michigan high school. At one point, the sheriff saying the parents were on the run.
We have our fugitive apprehension team in consulting with the FBI and also the U.S. Marshals fugitive team.
Earlier, in a stunning press conference, prosecutors laying out a portrait of Jennifer and James Crumbley's actions leading up to the attack, allegedly carried out by their 15-year-old son.
The facts of this case are so egregious.
They say the suspect was there at the store when his dad bought the semi-automatic handgun. His mother saying on social media it was her son's, quote, Christmas present. Earlier that week, prosecutors say a teacher had been alarmed, catching the suspect doing an online search for bullets on his phone, but his parents allegedly ignoring calls from the school. His mother, Jennifer Crumbley, texting her son, quote, LOL, I'm not mad at you. You have to learn how not to get caught. And then the day of the attack, a teacher discovering the suspect's disturbing drawings.
A drawing of a semi-automatic handgun pointing at the words, quote, the thoughts won't stop, help me, end quote. Between the drawing of the gun and the bullet is a drawing of a person who appears to have been shot twice and bleeding. Below that figure is a drawing of a laughing emoji.
Both parents were called to the school and shown the drawings, but prosecutors say they never searched their son's backpack or told the school their son had access to a gun.
This doesn't just impact me as a prosecutor and a lawyer, it impacts me as a mother. The notion that a parent could read those words and also know that their son had access to a deadly weapon that they gave him is unconscionable, and I think it's criminal.
The suspect was allowed to return to class after reports of the school shooting, Jennifer Crumbly allegedly texting her son, quote, "Ethan, don't do it." James Crumbly driving home to search for the gun that authorities say was kept in an unlocked drawer, but it was gone. Just last night, the school superintendent responding to criticism the school should have done more.
There's been a lot of talk about the student that was apprehended, that he was, called up to the office. No discipline was warranted.
But tonight, the prosecutor telling us school officials could still face charges.
If the school took different actions, would 4 kids be dead?
I think that's really obvious. If he had just been removed from the school at that time, you wouldn't have had that situation.
Megan, what do we know about the whereabouts of the parents tonight?
Well, Lester, the sheriff says they haven't turned themselves in. The attorney says they left for their own safety and they're on their way back. Meanwhile, the prosecutor says these charges should send a message to gun owners that if they don't uphold their responsibilities, there's criminal consequences. Lester?
Megan Fitzgerald tonight.
Okay, so this story has literally evolved, I guess you could say. Yes, the boy who did the school shooting, yes, he's definitely more than guilty, but so are his parents. And even more so, the fact that, they admitted, and keep in mind, the boy's 15 years old, and they went and bought him a handgun. And you got caught on text saying that this is his Christmas present. And even more so, when the boy got caught searching for ammo while he was in school, you can have to sit there and say, I'm not mad at you, just learn how not to get caught. Y'all, if that does not scream criminal behavior, nothing does. For the simple fact of the matter, it's just that now the parents, which by the way, they were arrested. They were not turned in, they were found and arrested. Because that story did actually get updated a few hours later. Because they had to be found. They did not turn themselves in, they had to be found. They were at an undisclosed location in an overnight parked car, and they got found. So again, it just adds to the craziness that yes, the parents knew of this child, they knew of the behavior, and again, they encouraged it. So of course they should be held liable. I have been saying this all the time when it comes to gun owners. I myself am a firearms owner. I myself take locking and storing my firearms very seriously. Why? Because even though I don't have children and I don't have any children that live with me, I always have that fear that my firearm could be used to hurt somebody if it's not secure. And the only way I can make sure of that is to make sure that my stuff is locked up and secure every time I leave the house. That's the reason why I say with gun owners, there's that responsibility, there's that training, there's that constant training that you need to do, there's that constant awareness that you need to have. And for most gun owners, they do exactly that. This was just in this case was just a failed from Jump Street about these parents buying a gun for an underage boy, for this boy who obviously has some mental issues, and they didn't care. And then on top of that, they're encouraging the boy not to get caught. So of course parents are held liable. And even at this point, they are flight risk. So hopefully whatever judge they're in front of says no bail. They can't be trusted. They cannot be trusted in their own reconnaissance to really be out there. So no, if I was a judge, I'd say no bail. You remain in jail. You remain in jail and your son remains in juvenile. That's where y'all are going to be until your court date, in my case. Now, what's also crazy is that some people are thinking that the school should have done more. And that's kind of a gray area because you can't sit there and say the school should have done more. I mean, the school did alert the parents. They did see some suspect behavior. But again, that's the key word, suspect behavior. Unless you want the school just to go ahead and go the full 9 yards, say, well, we need to remove the student. He might be a danger. I mean, because that could have went one of two ways. The parents could have sat there and said, well, they're just overreacting. Our kid's not a terrorist. He's not this. He's not that. I think the school's just doing this. I think the school just is trying to overreact. But on the other side, yeah, if the school overreacted, Will those three children still have been alive? Yes. But this is the line this is what we come to in America now. Do we overreact, or do we still continue the status quo? Now, for most schools these days, when they see pictures of a person that's screaming the thoughts won't stop, and the whole thing of putting 2 bullets in a person, most schools, depending on where you go, may sit there and go the extra mile and say, no, get this kid out of here. Get this kid out of here. He is not allowed to come back. He needs to have some mental health issues checked. We cannot allow that danger. Some schools will do that. Some schools would rather overreact than underreact. Some schools will actually do that. In this case, can the school be held liable? Depends on the law. Because what's going to come down to is, was there enough to where the school should have sat there and said, we need to do something about this if the parents won't? That's what it always comes down to, is how much evidence is out there. Now, for me, just because of the situation, the society and situation that we're in, that yes, we need to overreact. If we see a kid looking up bullets on his phone, it needs to have an overreact. If we see a kid drawing questionable things, we need to overreact. But is the school held liable? It depends on how much was there, because that's what's going to come down to. Like I said, if we've seen anything about court cases, and especially if the school is charged for this, they literally have to show beyond a shadow of a doubt that the school had more than enough to sit there and say, we need to remove this student because of the potential threat he can be. But that's for the courts to decide. As for me, yeah, the school could have done way more. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments. Moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this next one. And I keep on telling you guys that the Roe versus Wade landmark case in the Supreme Court, which makes abortion legal in all 50 states, is being challenged. It is being challenged right now. And even more so, I used to say a long time ago that, for the simple fact of the matter, that the Roe versus Wade would hold up. That, Supreme Court would make sure that women's rights are carried and secured. However, now that the Supreme Court is leaning mostly conservative, that might be in jeopardy right now. Even more so that Kavanaugh, which I still think is crazy, that a guy who was allegedly accused of sexual assault, and his whole case literally and figuratively got torn asunder in his favor, is going to sit there and say, well, in this case, there is a way that we can overturn Roe versus Wade, and we're going to do it by the LGBTQ cases that followed before us. I wish I could make this up. That again, he is talking about 2 cases. The first case he is talking about, again, as he pointed out, guys, he pointed out the cases of Obergefell versus Hodges, which, for all those that don't know, Obergefell versus Hodges actually allows same-sex marriages to happen across the United States. This was actually back in 2015, which again was striking down state laws criminalizing consensual same-sex activity in 2013. So that's one of the laws. That's one of the ways he's trying to say that, well, because of the Supreme Court ruling of Obergefell versus Hodges in 2015, it struck down state laws, and some state laws regarding consensual same-sex activity back in 2013. So what he's trying to say is that actual case basically changed the previous that case changed state laws back in 2003, which again is nuts. Even more so is the more recent one that he tried to argue, the Lawrence versus Texas. Again, what he tried to say in this one. Well, actually, he tried to say Lawrence versus Texas, similar to Obergefell versus Hodges, which was, again, striking down state laws regarding same-sex activity. So, it's like, that's not a reversal. But again, it's Brett Kavanaugh. Why are we surprised? This is the same guy, for a lot of people, especially for those who are sexual assault activists and rights activists, are saying that this Supreme Court justice should not rule anywhere near this, considering his own history with this. But the fact that he's trying to use LGBTQ cases as a way of saying we can overturn Roe versus Wade is crazy. Crazy. Because, again, I will never understand this. And for all those out there who are so-called pro-life, who sit there and say, what about the Bible? Nobody's here to talk about nobody's here to defend the unborn. They talk about the unborn like it's a race out there that nobody cares about. What about the unborn? I said, okay, well, if you're really pro-life, what about the homeless people that are panhandling on every street in America? What about the soldiers who don't really get the benefits and help they need when they return from war? What about, I can keep going down the line of all these things that pro-life people just seem to miss. But when it comes to an unborn child that a mother does not want or believes that they don't want to have and actually doing the responsible thing and actually getting an abortion, oh, they come out in droves because, God has ordained. And I'm like, this is why I sit there and say these pro-life, these repressively religious individuals will always come out and always speak against somebody else who makes a decision in their own life, but still isn't. But that's why I said that's the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy is pro-life people always talk about, well, no one's speaking up for the life of the child, so you just ignore the wishes of the mother. And I said it, and I'll say it before and I'll say it again. Abortions are probably the most responsible thing that a woman or a couple can do when they realize A, they're not able to take care of the child, B, it might cause health complications for the mother, and my personal favorite, C, they don't want to overload the orphanage and adoption centers that are already overloaded with kids, which again, pro-life people, if you really are pro-life, help empty out these adoption centers. Or better yet, allow same-sex parents to adopt these children. Same-sex parents are just great parents as heterosexual parents, but yet at the same time they get denied adoption centers because they're same-sex marriages. But pro-life people are talking about that, which I find amazing. But again, the whole point of this, guys, is just that how is it above all else that when it comes to women's rights in 2021, we are still talking about it? That's why I said I feel for women. I really do feel for women. Because your rights to your body are yours and yours alone. The choices and consequences are yours and yours alone. Because I will sleep just fine if a woman decides to have an abortion or not, because it's her body. How hard is it to understand the simple concept of her body, her choice? How hard is that to understand, you religious and pro-life people? But again, we will see. We will still follow this because, like I said, there is a chance that Roe versus Wade could be overturned. There is a chance. And unfortunately, it's a bigger chance now than what it used to be back then. But moving right along, guys, I did want to cover the Omicron and that, yes, it has made U.S. landfall.
Twice as fast as the Delta variant, Omicron, is in 40 countries tonight and popping up across the USA every day. From Hawaii in the west to New York in the east. 6 cases in Nebraska alone connected to one person's trip to Nigeria.
I would consider the cases to be mild to moderate.
But for now, experts say the real threat is more Delta than Omicron. On average, 860 people still dying every day. The unvaccinated 11 times more likely to be hospitalized, 14 times more likely to die than those who are vaccinated. At UW Health Swedish American Hospital in Rockford, Illinois, they've never seen so many COVID cases at once. 108 patients hospitalized, 20 in the ICU on ventilators, all but one unvaccinated. ICU Dr. Tabassum Nafsi must call families when a loved one dies.
So those people who are becoming severely ill, most of them are unvaccinated. I cannot comprehend as to why people wouldn't just go and get the vaccine we know which works.
Meanwhile, tonight, confusion for travelers overseas as new rules take effect Monday that require a negative COVID test within 24 hours of departure from a foreign airport. In London tonight, Matthew Cortland, who owns immersive experience bars in New York, London, and Scotland, has a lot of questions about his return trip to the U.S., which includes a 24-hour layover in Sweden.
So then I assume we need to get another test in that country before we get back on the second leg of the layover back to the U.S. It's just kind of unclear.
If you're returning from overseas, the CDC says you can use a quick antigen home test, but a telemedicine rep must witness your test. A more expensive PCR test is okay, but not required. Many airlines, airports, and hotels sell the tests.
So we're going to swab each nostril, beginning with your left.
Before I returned to the U.S. in September, a telemedicine rep watched me take the antigen test I'd bought from the airline.
The CDC says you don't need to retest if you're on a layover on a flight to the U.S., as long as you tested negative before your first flight.
All I can say to that is, wow. First and foremost, guys, we shouldn't really be surprised about this. I keep on saying, if you guys study virology, that viruses, much like humans, do grow and evolve. And yes, there was going to be another variant eventually coming for this. Now that being said, the doctor has simply said it best to where I can sit there and say this. Why haven't all these people gotten the shot yet? And I know there's a lot of people out there that don't want to get the shot, that don't want to be vaccinated for various reasons. Not of them are logical. I'm going to go ahead and keep on saying that. Various reasons, none of them are logical. None of them aren't. Because, again, COVID has taken so many lives, and it's still taking a lot of lives. So I don't get the fact that you're so worried about the government dosing you up, when, again, I've been vaccinated. I've recently got the booster. Still fine. I still wear my mask when I go out. I still make sure, again, it's like, well, people are like, well, if you wear the mask, well, why are you being vaccinated? If you're being vaccinated, why don't you wear the mask? Why do you still wear the mask? Because it's not about me. When the more, it's about everyone. Like, again, this decision, this choice of whether or not to be vaccinated, or whether or not that you don't, for lack of better words, simply do not care about yourself, it's not just about you anymore. That's why I make sure I have a mask when I'm going into stores and places like that. That's why I made sure to get the shot, because again, I am around families, around my families and individuals and kids. I just want to make sure that I am not adding to the cost. That's why I got the shot and the booster. Why I still wear the mask. Why I try to make sure that, hey, if I'm feeling anything, I turn into a hermit. Like, if I feel a sniffle, if it's a cough or a feeling in my throat, or if I feel like I'm a little bit warm, I stay home, because it is so easy to pass this virus on to folks. So that's the reason why we have to be careful. That is the reason why we need to do this. It's the reason why, again, especially if you're traveling, because if you're trying to travel in this day and age, like I said before, there's places I want to go. I still want to take my girlfriend to Greece, where she would love to see the Parthenon. I still myself would love to see China. I would still love to see Japan. I would love to see Africa and Australia and Italy and a whole mess of places out there. Would I do so in this COVID? Situation? Nope, I wouldn't. And you see why. The restrictions. And again, a lot of people, because they have to travel for business and for work and things of that nature, okay, they already have to get used to this. I mean, a COVID test, a negative COVID test, and then being witnessed by a rep to make sure you're taking the test, and you have to be negative on everything, because if you're not, they can't allow you on the plane. Do you know how crazy that is? At this point, I'm like, I'll put my travel plans on hold going out of the States until we finally get this under control. It is my hope that we finally get this under control, but it involves everybody doing their part. Because if I'm trying to travel to anywhere, and the fact that I got to stick that up my nose, anybody who's ever had a COVID test before, it is not fun. It is not fun when it's just, I mean, depending on whoever does the test for you, some people might be very gentle about it. Some people might be trying to unclog a toilet through your nose. I mean, that's how it feels like. But again, like I said, it's not that hard to do the right thing in this case, because like I said, I do want to get back to traveling one day. I'm just not doing it during a COVID pandemic. It's just a lot of work. That being said, we want to switch gears again, because Governor Ron DeSantis has sat there and said that he wants his own personal civilian force. Yes, we cannot make this up.
Wants to hand out taxpayer dollars to businesses that defy federal vaccine mandates. DeSantis says his state may pay the fines of businesses that snub the mandate, and he'll do it with coronavirus relief aid signed into law by President Biden. Another DeSantis idea that's raising eyebrows, he wants a new civilian military force in Florida that he, not the Pentagon, would control.
We also want to make sure that we have the flexibility and the ability needed to respond to events in our state in the most effective way possible. And some of that will require us to be able to have access and be able to use support in ways that are not encumbered by the federal government or don't require federal government. So I'm going to be recommending in the budget $3.5 million to reestablish the Florida State Guard.
The move comes after Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin warned that National Guard members who refuse to get the shot will have their pay withheld, and they will not be allowed to be in training.
Okay, so let's think about this for a second. Governor Ron DeSantis, or I'd like to call him Trump's favorite hand puppet, is wanting to do a military force of his own. And to keep in mind, the Florida State Guard was initially a force that was controlled by the Florida governor some time ago. It was decommissioned and now apparently being reactivated. I don't know about you guys. I'm a little bit concerned about a governor who wants control of his own state militia. Kind of reminds me of a certain person that loved having his own Gestapo. I'm just saying, it just seems very familiar. But again, I'm not surprised by Ron DeSantis just because he's basically wanting to curb favor. He is looking to be a presidential candidate. And at the same time, I don't know how in the world he still keeps getting elected in Florida. But again, I just think it's very scary because again, the Secretary of Defense did sit there and say, you know, if you're not vaccinated, you will not get paid. And everybody in Florida's like, oh, come on down here. We'll pay you guys unvaccinated. Protect and serve and still pass COVID. But we're not surprised by Governor Ron DeSantis because when's the last time he had a bright idea that wasn't Trump endorsed? That's all I'm saying. But speaking of idiots in the GOP, again, you guys, we did cover in the midweek review regarding Miss Boebert and her beef with Ilhan Omar, and even taking the beef to extreme by suggesting that her Democratic counterpart is a terrorist while speaking to her voters. Which then again brings up, that's not the only thing, which then again brings up, you know, what's GOP doing about any type of rhetoric? I mean, considering that Marjorie Taylor Greene talked about African American counterparts and almost caused a fight within Congress. Representative Gosnar talked about killing, he had a cartoon depicting AOC getting her head cut off along with the president. So right now the GOP is, and like I said, this is not just a single individual. This is now a growing. I wouldn't even say growing, because again, I kept on saying the entire time, Trump is just the makeup remover for a lot of people, and the GOP currently now has shown that they are not inclusive for everybody. And again, I always ask myself, how are they actually tackling this issue of a lot of their members speaking out really in a toxic way?
As civil rights groups have been asking if leaders in the Republican Party are actually enabling Islamophobia on Capitol Hill after one GOP member made an anti-Islamic comment about one of her colleagues who is Muslim. GOP leadership had little to say before today. Here's ABC's Mary Alice Parks.
House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy today breaking his silence, addressing a controversy that has boiled over this week in Congress.
This party is for anyone and everyone who craves freedom and supports religious liberty. Lauren Boebert, as I called her when it came forward, we talked. She apologized publicly. She apologized personally.
McCarthy responding to this video that sparked outrage among Democrats.
The other night on the House floor was not my first Jihad Squad moment.
A sitting member of Congress, Colorado Representative Lauren Boebert, seen on camera at a November event referring to progressive colleagues as the, quote, Jihad Squad. and then implying that Representative Ilhan Omar, one of only 2 female Muslim members of Congress and the only to wear a hijab, could be a potential terrorist.
We're going back to my office and we get in the elevator and there she is, Ilhan Omar. Whoops. And I said, well, she doesn't have a backpack, we should be fine.
Omar says the story never happened, claiming it was an inflated tale by Boebert trying to look anti-Muslim to her supporters. Civil rights leaders worry her statements are a part of a trend of Islamic attacks from far-right Republican members of Congress, and that congressional leaders are too often not speaking out.
I want the leaders of the GOP and DNC alike to understand the severity of allowing Islamophobia to become mainstream.
When the video became public, Boebert did apologize, writing, "I apologize to anyone in the Muslim community I offended with my comment about Representative Omar. I have reached out to her office to speak with her directly. There are plenty of policy differences to focus on without this unnecessary distraction." Boebert and Omar did talk, but the call between them did not seem to go well. The Congresswomen trading pointed statements after, Omar calling out Boebert for not apologizing directly to her or publicly, and saying her comments were, quote, dangerous.
We cannot pretend that this hate speech from leading politicians doesn't have real consequences.
Visibly shaken, she shared a disturbing anonymous voicemail threat she says she received after her call with Boebert, one of many she says she gets regularly.
Don't worry, there's plenty that will love the opportunity to take you off the face of the earth. You Muslim piece of shit, you jihadist. We know what you are.
While McCarthy is maintaining that Boebert has apologized already, Omar is calling out Republican leadership for not doing more.
Condemning this should not be a partisan issue. This is about our basic humanity and fundamental rights of religious freedom enshrined in our Constitution. It is time for the Republican Party to actually do something, to confront anti-Muslim hatred in its ranks and hold those who perpetuate it accountable.
One Republican member who has condemned Boebert's words, freshman Congresswoman Nancy Mace. That led to finger-pointing and fighting within the GOP. Mace squabbling online with Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I mean, she's a grifter of the first order, and she does it to raise money. She takes advantage of vulnerable Americans and vulnerable conservatives.
Infighting that McCarthy says he views as a distraction.
It's things we would not want to deal with. It is things that the American people want to focus on. Stopping inflation, gas prices, and others, and anything that deviates from that causes problems.
Some say Boebert should be stripped of her committee assignments. Taylor Greene was earlier this year for past controversial comments, and Arizona Congressman Paul Gosar was censured by Democrats last month after he tweeted a violent video targeting Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. But House Speaker Nancy Pelosi seeming reluctant to give more oxygen to what she's called the fringes of the Republican Party. A source familiar with her remarks at a closed-door meeting this week saying Pelosi said there's a judgment that has to be made about how we contribute to their fundraising and their publicity on how obnoxious and disgusting they can be. A delicate balancing act of calling out hate while trying not to add more fuel to the fire. For ABC.
Now, I point this out for the simple fact of the matter. I kind of disagree with Pelosi because, again, you should give this all the attention because, again, Democrats, 2022 is coming up. The midterms are coming up. The Republicans are ready to paint you guys as an inoperable political party that had majority and control over Congress and did nothing with that time. Yes, they're going to use every trick in the book to discredit you. They're going to use every trick in the book to get voters. They're going to change the voting laws to make it harder for minorities and other people of color to vote. So yes, Pelosi, I really think you should change your ID on that and point this out. This is not just the fringes of the GOP. This is the GOP. This is the GOP in every sense of the word. Simply put, because they had no problem with this. Kevin McCarthy is like the high school principal of the GOP. And the simple fact of the matter is, Boebert got caught. He says, well, she's already apologized. To who? I mean, yeah, as you can see, as you saw the news article, yeah, her and Ilhan Omar had a conversation. But again, it didn't go well because she probably will still say, well, I know what I said was wrong, but I wasn't wrong in how I felt. I can almost guarantee she probably said that. But at the same time, it's like Kevin McCarthy still saying, well, just like Gosner, well, he apologized. Marjorie Taylor Greene, oh, well, she apologized. Boebert, oh, well, she apologized. He is the high school principal of basically the most juvenile freshman class there is. But he's also going to be sitting pretty because, again, he doesn't want to dismiss the hand of the king. Which we all know the Republican Party will bow down to Trump because Trump surprisingly has a Joe Exotic-like following out there. And trust me, it is still there. And again, it should not be something that should be widely dismissed because, again, we dismissed Trump a long time ago. We dismissed him back in 2012 thinking that, this wasn't possible. There's no way. 4 years later, crap. So again, when it comes to the GOP, guys, it's not surprising. But we shouldn't just not talk about it. We should point out the fact that, yes, a majority of them are xenophobes. A majority of them are racist. A majority of them will say anything and everything to appease their fans. We know this, and it should be expressed. Now, I will say this to the one lone Republican that sat there and called out their BS. I'm surprised because it's rare. At the same time, let's see how long she stays in the GOP. We've seen what happens when you go against the GOP. They are a pack mentality. If you do not go with the pack, you are against them. We saw that already with Cheney. We saw that with Dick Cheney's daughter. They went after. She voted to impeach Trump. She spoke out against Trump. Where is she now? Kicked out of Republican leadership. Her home state of Wyoming literally took her out of their congression, and she's still running. She's still running as a Republican. But the sole reason why all this happened, she went against Trump. She went against the hand of the king. She went against the mob. And so that one lone Republican out there who is speaking out about Marjorie Taylor Greene being a grifter and trying to get as much money as she can, she ain't wrong. Do I think that she'll still be in office? That's going to be a hard say. Because it just seems that when common sense is out there, especially among a group of idiots, the common sense person is seen as the crazy one. But we will see. But again, I have to disagree with Pelosi. Let all of that be known. Let all of that out there. Because again, when you shine that light on a bunch of cockroaches, you see exactly what they are. Roaches. But I digress. But then again, I'm not all completely about Republicans. Like I always say, I'm also on the Democrats' ass too, especially about the most recent interview with how can I put it this way? Republican favorite Democratic wall, at least one of two, Kristen Sinema, who again has already sat there and said she has dodged the question of whether or not she will vote for Biden's social safety net legislation. Don't believe me? Here's the proof.
With the president, perhaps more than any other senator in the Democratic Party, maybe aside from Joe Manchin. What lessons have you learned? What kind of negotiator is the president? And is it hard for you to tell the president, no, I can't do that?
President Biden served in the Senate for a long time, so he knows how negotiations work. And he also, during this process, called me repeatedly and asked me to continue working with Senator Rob Portman and others in the G10 to find this bipartisan agreement, and showed a real commitment to wanting this bipartisan achievement, which we've accomplished. And I think the big challenge in front of us is for us to all work together in an accountable and transparent way to actually implement this law.
Schumer has said he wants to vote on Build Back Better, that broader social safety net bill, before Christmas break. Are you prepared to vote yes when that comes to the floor?
Well, I don't set the schedule for the Senate floor, and I'm always prepared to vote, and to vote for what's right for the interests of Arizona. I personally believe that the best way to create legislation is to be thoughtful and careful so that we're crafting legislation that truly represents the interests that we want to achieve and that creates a benefit and helps people all across Arizona and the country. So that's what I'm working on right now.
So it doesn't sound like you're quite a yes yet on the version that just passed the House of Representatives. What changes do you want to make?
Well, folks know I don't negotiate in the press, so I'm not going to do that with you.
I know one of the things.
Okay, I just stop right there. why I'm not a journalist. This is why I'm not a journalist, because, again, you just got asked on the spot, will you commit to voting for the Build Back Better plan? Well, no, I would have been like, as a reporter, I would be like, no, yes or no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Which one is it? Because, again, Kyrsten Sinema, like Joe Manchin, are the two gifts that Republicans wish for, and yet somehow managed to get. Because between those two, they have turned around and literally and figuratively made it to a point to where Democrats are having the hardest time. They barely got the American Infrastructure Plan passed. Barely. So now with the Build Back Better plan, the nearly $2 trillion plan, which actually is going to bring a lot of great things out of it, even though a lot of great things are taken out of it, free community college, family leave, gutted down from 12 months down to 4 weeks. And then they gutted the Medicare, which again, for a lot of voters, Medicare is important, and they were going to add. And it's amazing that in Medicare, how dental and vision are not added to this. But when it comes to Sinema, again, I point this out. She's not going. I hate to say this. She is the potential roadblock for this, but at the same time, she's not going to vote yes. Because if guys don't remember, President Biden already sat there and said what Kyrsten Sinema's about. She will not raise taxes on the rich and the corporate. Not a penny more. Now think about that. If you ever heard that phrase before, we will not raise taxes on the rich and the corporate, and you heard it from a Democrat. And I'm not just saying just her. There's a bunch of moderate Democrats in the Senate that feel exactly like she says. They just don't say it. So I'll give her credit for at least coming out and saying it. But again, that's a Republican mentality. And again, this is why I sit there and say, between whenever it comes down to anything getting passed in the Senate, it's already been passed in the House. Progressive Democrats have already passed this in the House. It is now in the Senate, where you have the moderate Democrats, or as I like to call them, Republican light. Because the simple fact of the matter is, they have to pass that. I mean, yes, if this was passed, this would probably be more the more financial overhaul bills, more than likely since the New Deal, since Obamacare. That's just being honest. But is it insanely helpful? Yes. Even as gutted as it is right now, it is still immensely helpful to a lot of people. Especially for child care assistance, which is a big thing, because if you have not seen child care or have not paid for child care anytime soon, it is not, like I said, if you can afford I think it's anywhere from $270 to almost $400 a week, depending on where you are. If you can afford that a week, then God bless you. But a lot of parents can't. That's why a lot of families' households have went from 2 incomes to a single income, because a parent is staying home to take care of the children. And a single income means tighter belts and leaner budgets, which a lot of families are struggling to do. So this is why I say Sinema and Manchin, when they actually talk about, well, we might get this, we're hoping this gets passed. No, everybody's on board with you. I was like, you know what it is? It's like having a group project where everybody's on board, but you have 2 people that are literally and frankly going, I don't like how this looks. We could have had this project turned in months ago, and you have 2 people who are sitting there saying, I don't know, I think we can go this or that, and dragging their feet. So again, I'm just not surprised by this, but at the same time, I don't see the Build Back Better plan getting passed before the end of the year. I don't even see it getting passed in 2022. But we will see. Last story I got, guys, before we actually get to our Feel Good segment. And again, I kind of dig this a little. And I kind of dig this because, number one, it's a great idea. And number two, it's going to shine a light on how we do banking in America. Now, probably for a lot of you guys have been said, and it's been said by Capital One, that they do plan to drop all overdraft fees for all retail banking customers. Now, I don't know about you guys, if you've ever had an overdraft, which I still say it's amazing, that anybody who's ever had money or did not have enough money in their balance, things of that nature, of course, that's what an overdraft. Now, overdrafts, depending on your banks, can be anywhere from $25 to $35 per charge. However, Capital One, when they actually did introduce banking not too long ago, are now saying that they are going to be eliminating overdraft fees for all their banking customers. Now, this will cost them an estimated $150 million in lost revenue per year, but they do want to remove it because, again, that's been one of the things for a lot of customer advocates to go ahead and remove overdraft fees. I always said it best when it comes to this. It is amazing in the banking world that if a bank runs out of money, they run to Congress. They run to Congress and they get money. A person runs out of money at a bank, they charge them $35. Now, I always thought that was crazy, that how in the world can a bank charge you $35 for money that you don't have? But again, this is why I say it's one of those things like, will this bring more customers to Capital One? Yes. A lot of I can see this as a move because yes, it is $150 million in lost revenue, but they will gain a lot of customers who will switching banks to Capital One just because of the simple fact of the matter that you will not be charging overdraft fees. Now, will this encourage other banks to do the same? We'll see. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I personally will. It might be a long time before we see other banks turn around and do the same thing. Or it could be short, depending. Like I said, it depends on how many people, because I know a lot of people be like, well, I'm going to switch my banks because you guys are basically just overcharging us for overdrafts, and I'm going to take it here. Now, will that cause some banks to maybe rethink their overdraft policy? I wish they would go one further. I mean, I would say Elizabeth Warren, who in my opinion should be leading her previous position with the Congressional Budget Office, with the CBO. I still say they should make all banks drop all overdraft fees. I said it before. All banks should drop overdraft fees. Let's try this again. I think that all banks should get rid of the overdraft fee. I really do believe that because it serves no purpose. And at the same time, why not? Again, like I said before, Americans can't do what banks have done. Like I said before, when banks run out of money, they run to Congress. We've seen the banks get bailed out multiple times. But individuals such as myself can't go to Congress and sit there and say, hey, I've run out of money. Can I get a loan? No. But the bank can still charge you $35. So again, I like the fact that Capital One is, starting to really do some things that are not of the norm. And maybe banks will follow, maybe they'll not. But we'll see. But then again, when it comes to banks, I always said it best that banks really need to change a lot, especially the fact on student loans, things of that nature. But that's for another story. But anyway, we're going to get on to our feel-good segments because usually on How the Frack We Got Here, we usually cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom. Sometimes we can lose your faith in humanity, but hey, it's the weekend. It's, gloomy over here in Tennessee, but, sunny or snowing wherever you are. I mean, it is December, it's snowing somewhere. But with that being said, we want to leave you with a couple stories that, might uplift your spirits, put a little pep in your step, and get you to enjoy this weekend if you're not working. If you are working, make your shift be quick. I want to start with this first one that I did cover on Wednesday, where basically this man, I say won twice. This gentleman right here had open heart surgery, which again is the more serious surgeries that you can have. Came through it like a champ. So anyway, he received a get well card that has some 3 scratch off tickets, and one of those 3 scratch off tickets, he won $1 million lottery prize. That is a beautiful thing to come out of open heart surgery, get some scratch off tickets, and one of those is a $1 million prize. And again, that made his, and again, like I said, that's a, I don't know who you are, I don't care who you are, that's a good day. And the thing about this story is that's not the only time he actually won. He actually, about a few years ago, had another scratch-off ticket that, again, he won $1,000 on that he was given for his birthday. So this man's luck right here is immaculately amazing. And at the same time, he did select the cash money option. So after $1 million, I think he gets like, because taxes, which is still funny, 650, I want to say 650,000, give or take. Still, 650,000 is life-changing money. But I always find it funny about the government coming in and taking the taxes off. Hey, you just won $1 million. Now Uncle Sam has come to get his. And I always argue, well, Uncle Sam wasn't here when I got the ticket, so why are you here when I got the money? But again, we're trying to keep a feel-good news segment. I just want to say that guy's luck factor. I'm sorry, but that guy's luck factor has to be legendary. But moving right along, I did want to cover this next story, again, about pianos and the fact of nonprofits donating pianos. And I always wanted to learn how to play piano, but, I love music, but I'm not musically inclined. But it's always nice to see people that are getting to be able to play these instruments.
The sound of music. In St. Louis, Missouri, the nonprofit Pianos for People giving donated pianos to families who otherwise would not be able to afford them. 11-year-old Eddie Pepper learning Jingle Bells just in time for Christmas. Eddie and his mom, Haley, and little brother, Tommy.
I hope everybody has music in their lives and happy holidays.
And then there's 8-year-old Wesley learning Frosty the Snowman.
Hey, David.
Wesley with his mom, Raina, both grateful.
Because of them, Wesley can read and play music now. It's amazing.
Hello. And tonight here, the Foley family giving this holiday.
We had the hope that this lovely instrument could find a good home and be put to good use.
It turns out their piano is now moving just 15 minutes away to Carolyn Moore and her son Gibran, both already taking lessons in Mom's song, Ode to Joy. They are grateful for the holiday gift.
It's been a blessing, and we are so grateful today to receive the piano. I need to practice.
And again, I always say this about music. They never underestimate the power of music, especially the simple fact of what it can do. And that's what I always say about music programs in schools. I know a few friends of mine who I like to call them, they call themselves band kids. Nothing wrong with that, because there's nothing wrong with the high school band. There's nothing wrong with the marching band. There's nothing wrong with falling in love with an instrument and, you know, being out there marching. Because I've seen some bands get down. And I'm not just talking about TSU's Big Band of Blue, because or Grambling, or Florida A&M, and I can keep going down the line of Morehouse, and I can keep on Jackson State. I'm just saying, I'm not just talking about HBCUs, but still, they make halftime game time, and again, it comes from groups of talented men and women who just love playing music. And like I said before, you give music to a child that likes that, they never depart from it. It's like video games, you raise them up. If you raise them up in the way, they never depart from it. Although I'm almost 40, I never depart from the sticks. But that's neither here nor there. But again, like I said, I always keep saying you never stop learning. I still may get a guitar. Like as I always said, I always wanted to learn how to play guitar. I always want to learn how to play piano, because I still look at my favorite heroes like Prince, who can play dang near everything, and the man looked good doing it. But again, still a good thing to see people actually getting the gift of music and being able to enjoy that experience. The last thing I got, guys, again, this is kind of interesting, because I've never seen kids. Kids are interesting. Kids are interesting people, especially the fact of the matter is that when they have to outdo you, and there is this between these two brothers, they're having an I love you face off. I'm sorry, it's cute. It got me.
That is definitely America Strong. Tonight, the holiday moment these families are cherishing. From Long Island, New York, 2-year-old Rome enjoying Thanksgiving leftovers, and then saying goodbye to his big brother, Brendan, going back to college after Thanksgiving break.
Bye, Rome. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you.
They keep going. This is a love contest.
I love you. I love you.
They were still going.
Love you. I love you.
Clearly, brotherly love. And from Washington, D.C., for years now,
Hi, Jack.
Tisa Sinclair documenting the moment she picks up her son Jax from daycare.
Hi, Jack.
Jax excited every time, and now walking. Growing up before Mom's eyes, and now ours. Telling us she recorded nearly every day and shared them for Jax's 5th birthday.
Hi.
And right here tonight,
Hi, David.
Tisa with little Jax. That mom telling us why she did it.
Remembering how just really great it felt every time I would come pick him up, no matter what kind of day that I had, picking him up would just kind of just melt everything away.
While back on Long Island,
I love you.
Mom Marilyn telling us tonight she hopes this reminds every family love can get us through all of this.
Love you.
Those two brothers, and of course that mom who.
Yeah, that was cute. I ain't gonna lie, that was cute. Just the simple fact of the matter is, yeah, love will get you through it. Family gets you through it because all of these fingers, if you put them together, they make a mighty fist. I'm sorry, that was. And they can strike a mighty blow. I mean, I'm sorry, I was channeled soul food for a second. But anyway, I just thought that was cute, and that did make me smile. Especially little baby. That baby was not gonna be outdone. That baby was like, no, I love you. And we can keep this going as he's trying to look like he had some cake and, babies and sugar. Woo! But that being said, guys, that's going to do it for this podcast. I do thank everybody that watched, that liked, that let me know where we're live, that shared. I certainly appreciate it. Also, guys, like I said before I get out of here, I gotta do some shameless plugging. I will start with my buddy Big BZA Dot, which you can find him either on Westwood on Facebook or Big BZA Dot on socials, where he has Smoking Trailer Sundays every Sunday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. in which he shows movies and game reviews that he does that he finds interesting and therefore wants to share them with you. He also has the REF podcast, which is like America's Funniest Podcast, except by World Star, so only for the grown and intended, every Tuesday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Central Time. He also has a video game channel called Making Plays, which you can also see on Facebook, so definitely check him out. The Bob Witherspoon on Facebook or Big BZA Dot on all socials. Also, shout out to Ari and Geek Present Geek Salad for allowing me to share my podcast on their page. I certainly appreciate this, guys. You can certainly find out their page on Facebook and on YouTube. These are actually podcasting guys that I've met this year. Very good set of guys, even though me and Ari sometimes have some differences over Zack Snyder movies, but that's all in fun. But they do cover a lot of things in the world of pop culture and things outside of pop culture they talk about. As you can literally see from their YouTube page, they do cover a lot of it. So definitely check them out. R&G Present Geek Salad on Facebook and on YouTube, as you can see there. Now, as for yours truly, guys, the link at the bottom in red, if you copy and paste that into your browser, will take you to my link tree that will take you to my all my YouTube and Facebook groups for all of my podcasts, How the Frack We Got Here, Get Bit, and of course, Al Clint's podcast. My IG handle that you see in the top left-hand corner, BlackBox447, you can follow me there. I do sometimes post movie reviews like Resident Evil. I know, I watch it because I want to, save you from watching it. I do post that. I do post game reviews and sometimes inspirational stuff, gym, because I do a couple push-ups. But aside from that, like I said, definitely follow me there because, depending on what I find or what I show, I like to try to be funny sometimes. 2 out of 7 times I'm funny, at least I try to be. And also, with that being said, guys, again, COVID, as you can obviously see, is out there alive and well, and the variants are out there with it. Please, oh please, if you haven't already, get vaccinated, get your boosters, please wear a mask. When you protect yourself, you protect others, and that's how we're going to get through this. So by all means, let's stop with the BS of I'm not getting vaccinated, and let's not wait till you're in the hospital on death's door to get vaccinated. That's all I'm going to say about that. Aside from that, guys, again, the last thing I'll say about How the Frack We Got Here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to change minds or persuade people. We are simply trying to do what the news stations of old try to do. Give you all the information that we can, allow you to make up your own mind. Because we do a lot better when we actually are informed. We're progressive, we move forward, we actually try to right the wrongs of our history by making decisions now that we didn't do back in the past. Like electing our first Madam Vice President who was black. I am still waiting for Michelle Obama and her husband in 2024 because I felt better when a black woman was in the White House. Especially Michelle, because let's be honest, nobody of all the first ladies, nobody tried Michelle. That's all I'm saying. But then again, it's always nice to hear Supreme Court Justice Barack Obama. But again, wishful thinking. But aside from that, guys, if you like I said before, thank you all again for watching. Let me know what you think. Whether you liked it or not, I still want to know and about the subjects that we talked about. Aside from that, take care of yourselves and each other, and we will get through this. Peace, guys.